Thanks to the sacrifice of Rachel's brother, we finally hold the key to defeating the Galcian once and for all. The tie-down orbital weapon is operational and under our control. Rachel is making final preparations to ensure the fleet's safety as we secure the Kartoba site.
Power and discharge protocols in the green. Targeting and alignment data is suboptimal. We will require a ground-based scanner network to resolve firing accuracy, or nobody will be safe out there.
The Kartoba site is located here. The Galcian fleet is holding their position outside the targeting perimeter. When they realize we have safely entered the site, they will advance and surround us. We will not have much time. Rachel, stand by to deploy.
Roger that.
We must get Rachel and her team into the Kartoba wreck immediately. Time is of the essence. Expect Galcian forces to arrive shortly.
Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Homeworld, Deserts of Kharak. So this is a little bit different episode for you guys today. In the process of recording this episode, I lost my audio recording. The game audio should be fine. I was cleaning out some hard drive space and thought I had copied it over from my Linux box that I normally record my audio on, and had not done so. So I accidentally, I did this myself. I did this to myself. I deleted my own audio before I was ready. So I'm going to do this as post commentary, and it's probably for the best anyway, because I can pretty much sum up this final mission thusly. First of all, here I am starting off with, basically I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to get as many resources as I can. I'm going to get them early and often before I trigger any triggers here. So I've basically sent Rachel all around to the perimeters here, and I've been ship breaking, all that stuff. And then I ran out of resources before I could ship break everything. So I figured, okay, now it's time to try and trigger this whatever we're going to trigger here.
I have the wreck in sight. No movement detected. Conducting preliminary scan. Quantum signature verified. The site appears undisturbed. Pristine. I'm going in.
Copy that, Rachel.
We need to set up the scanner network so I can build a targeting matrix. I can direct the beam once the network is in place.
To establish the targeting matrix, deploy scanners at these locations.
Alrighty then, so we've got our fleet here now ready to go, and I'm basically sending off all of my resource salvagers to go out and start collecting as many resources as possible.
Ground units detected.
Carrier warning. Heat levels are spiking.
And as we're sitting here, the computer is just generating some random enemy forces to come after us. Now, at first on this map, they're all kind of sitting around the scanners. So I figured to myself as I'm playing here, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to put all 3 scanners down. I'm just going to try to put 1 or 2 down first, and then just kind of build up. You know, just bide some time and wait and get as many CUs and RUs as I can. What's happening here right now is that there starts out with a lot of stuff spawned, a lot of enemy stuff spawned on the map. Most of it is light vehicles and some armor. There are a few, as you'll see in a moment here, we'll get a few heavy vehicles coming in after us. Namely, I believe we get a honor guard cruiser at some point, or a siege cruiser, one or the other. So, long story short, basically, these guys come in, they start wiping out what remains of my forces. They also begin to cheeseball me a little bit and take out my resource salvagers. So I end up losing pretty much everybody, except for the Capizzi, obviously. But like I said, these are mostly just small potatoes, just small fry. So with the Capizzi, I just keep sending out my gunships. I'll send out my bombers whenever I can, and basically fight them off that way. It's not really that big a deal yet. I mean, there's a lot here. What I discover in the process of doing this is that the AI appears to be drawn to not only to my resource salvagers, as you can see over on the right hand side there, and my siege and my support cruiser that they keep attacking, which I don't realize they're attacking. I think everything's okay over there, but they actually are. They are actually attacking it. And in fact, they just destroyed it, and that was sort of my first indication that that they were targeting stuff over there. So as you can see, they've wiped out pretty much everything at this point. And what I realized is that the computer is actually targeting the scanners, the scanner areas. The AI is drawn to them. So as soon as I deploy this scanner here, I'll start to get a bunch of AI just coming down directly for it. So what I started to do was, once I realized...
We need 2 more scanners to complete the matrix.
Let's go.
Right. Once I realized that they were targeting, they were drawn to my scanners, I started to pair them up with some turrets. And those turrets, since they're mostly sending small light fighters after me, light craft after me, we're pretty much ripping through their stuff pretty easily. Which I slowly come to the realization of. I also throw a couple mines down, which they end up just running right through the mines, which is rather hilarious. Gunships, as I mentioned in the last episode, gunships are fantabulous. When you don't have missile ships to contend with, the gunships will just rip through pretty much everything. It's just the best thing in the game, next to the cruise missile, which I'm about to hit everything but one there with that cruise missile. That one guy manages to squeak by. The only complaint I have about the gunships is that they, as you can see, they're just kind of flying around that one area. Because they won't reassign to another target. Like there'll be other enemies in the area and they'll just kind of ignore them. And that's one of the big failings, I think, of the game, is the friendly AI in particular. Is that, I can forgive bad enemy AI, but the friendly AI is really dumb. Like, it won't reassign targets, it won't go after other things, other targets of opportunity. It'll follow the enemy. The enemy will draw them back away from their forces, and they don't stay together, and there's stuff like that just bothers the crap out of me with it. But other than that, as you can see, it's pretty much from this point forward, I've killed off all of their surface units for the most part, except for that one group there next to that scanner deployment. And they don't recover from this. What'll happen is, from the left-hand side of the screen, left-hand corner, they'll keep, every couple minutes it'll spawn another group of these guys coming in, and by the time they're spawned in, I have my cruise missile up and I just pick them off. So it's really just me just kind of sitting here and just kind of puttering around a little bit. So what I do from this point on is I spend the better part of an hour basically I create as many salvage cruisers as I can, salvage resource salvagers as I can, and I just salvaged the crap out of this map.
Location marked.
So I've finished harvesting everything on this map. I've left this one scanner position undeployed, and we're just deploying it now.
Scanner network in place.
Great. Keep the network operational while I perform the scan.
Right, so what I did was, like I said, the only thing spawning here was an occasional ground group and mostly bombers, and I just paired up all my scanners with AA turrets, and those bombers were no problem whatsoever. I literally got every piece of resource unit off this map that I could. I think I was at something like 30-some thousand RUs at some point.
Scan complete. Preparing targeting matrix. Wait. Our scanners have picked up something. It's all around us. It's incredible. An entire city buried beneath the sand. This must be it. This must be Kartoba, the first city of Kharak. It's real. Targeting matrix complete. Firing sequence primed. The orbital weapon is now at our disposal.
Just in time, Rachel. We are detecting a Gaussian carrier crossing the perimeter. Fire when ready.
Let's see what this thing can do.
Alright, so now we're going to get our first shot at actually seeing what this satellite does. So Rachel's the one that controls the firing pattern on that. And we're going to zoom in here and take a look at it, at the big kaboom. Ah, yes. It brings new meaning to the word nuking it from orbit, doesn't it? or maybe it brings the original meaning to it. But anyway, at this point in the game, I figure at this point...
Fire at will.
Okay. I figure at this point in the game, I'm basically just buying myself time. So I've built a whole bunch of units. I actually built a whole lot of railguns. I meant to build armored class, heavy armored units, not railguns, but whatever. They serve the same purpose, which is basically just keeping these guys at bay for a little while, because I figure there's some sort of timer going on. As Rachel kind of confirmed right there, which is she's going to figure out a way to focus the weapon. Obviously, the Ashinta is just a sort of decoy-esque thing. Like this isn't going to be the main thing. We got, I'm sure, bigger fish to fry. And as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm like, yeah, the Ashinta's going down pretty easily. So something else is going to happen. Of course, I'm upset at this point because you can see most of my guys are up on that mountain, but there's another portion of my units that just refuse to stay together. This is why one of my biggest complaints about the friendly AI here is that I want everybody to stay together. I want them to be all up on that mountain, on that high ground, and they're all kind of spread out regardless. They're just not acting as a unit as they should be. And as you can see, we're taking the Ashinta down without even really using the heavy artillery. We're just taking them on, and they're going to make a kaboom now.
Confirmed. Enemy siege cruiser destroyed. Sendor armored vehicle is taking fire. Tracking target. Alert. Railgun down.
And at some point here, it will break in with the final reveal. Yes, once we've destroyed that guy, I think it does it. Yep, here we go.
northern Kithid of Kharak. Everything you have achieved, the battles you have won, they were preordained by the great Sajuk himself. To believe otherwise is vanity. His will is our destiny. But words alone will not stay your hand. Much you have made clear. You have brought this darkness. You have chosen war. May the blood sand quiet the great slumber of Sajuk.
We have never seen this class of Gaussian ship before. It appears to be some kind of supercarrier, a Gaussian flagship. The Gaussian Psi is aboard. Defeat it at all costs.
Of course, at this point, I'm looking all over like, where the hell is this thing at? where? Ah, there it is. Jeez Louise. After the game constantly pulling my attention in various places, at the very end, it's like, nah, we're not going to show you where the guy's at. So I am basically doing my good old cheeseball maneuver here, and I am just going to hit this guy from long range, from downtown, as much as possible. Lots of things being exploded and all those things. And the way I've got this set up is I've basically retired all of my resource units because they're not useful to me anymore. The group 1 there, as you can see, has been whittled down quite a bit from the first wave. And I'm just using them now as a picket line. I'm just basically saying I gotta keep moving. I gotta keep moving the Capizzi around and buying myself time for things to recharge, waiting for my cruise missile to recharge, waiting for the abilities to recharge.
Beam's aperture to provide a more intense shot over a smaller radius. Both beam modes are available.
Right. And now we've got a more intense beam from Rachel's shot that she has from the satellite. So basically, it's just keep moving at this point. Right now, they're very hung up on my group 1 guys there, and I'm just trying to snipe them from afar with the Capizzi and with Rachel. And it goes on like this for a couple minutes, really. You can see my group 1 is fighting valiantly there. I've got a couple support cruisers in there, which, for some reason have decided to all focus on one guy instead of actually moving around and focusing on multiples. It's just another complaint I have. I'm getting all the complaints out now. It's the final episode, for crying out loud. This is the final mission, after all. So I'm moving the Capizzi around, and then I realize right at this point, I'm like, wow, the Gaussian flagship's not really going for the Capizzi, and I'm like, oh crap, he's going directly for Rachel. So we gotta get Rachel. We gotta get Rachel out of the way. I'm trying to make a bunch of units to follow the Capizzi around because I'm like, oh, they're clearly going to go for that, but nope, they're going straight for Rachel, and I'm like, okay, we gotta get her moving as fast as possible. Just keep her moving as much as we can, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Although I almost figured that out too late, but yeah, she's still moving around. And at this point, it's just a couple more minutes of me just whittling them away. Not really doing any frontal attacks on them. Group 1 just got decimated. And yeah, I mean, from this point on, it's just I'm just gonna show you the final shot, and you get to see the big complosion. The very satisfying complosion.
Taking hostile fire. Hostile railguns opened up.
Firing.
I have failed my people. My creator. The wrath of Sajuk will descend upon Kharak in an unimaginable hailstorm of fire and death. Know that you will one day bring this fate upon us all. is too late. Step into his light and be absolved.
What was that? I couldn't hear you over the large explosion that I caused. What was that about? Heating advice? Didn't quite hear you over the sound of your body being evaporated.
The truth of our origins is only now being revealed. Descendants of the great derelicts of Kharak. We are all one. We are all Kushan. My brother said, salvation lay in the desert. It's too early to know for sure if he was right, but one thing is certain. This is not the end, but rather a new beginning for us all.
And there you have it, my friends. Homeworld, Deserts of Kharak. Now, this game, for the story, is fantastic. It's got its problems as far as the gameplay goes, and that guy is still very, very worried about Gaussian air units. Gaussians are dead, dude. Just leave it. Just leave it go. Story-wise, I love this game. Story-wise, like, I don't mind it being easy. Because I really was playing this game for the story, not really for a challenge. That's to say, though, there was a lot of frustrations that I had with the game, but the story was not one of those. The story was fantastic. I love it. As someone who played Homeworld 1, and I love the story behind it, getting this earlier look, getting this prequel, if you will, looking at what's going on Kharak prior to this, with all the divisions and all the clans, or whatever they call them, whatever name they have for them, the Kithids, or whatever they're called, and then to see them all come together at the very end. And basically at the end of the game, it starts the way Homeworld 1 pretty much begins, where it's like, hey, we found this wreck. On it we find, and I'm going to spoil Homeworld 1 just a little bit for you guys, so I apologize, but on it we find a hyperdrive unit, which allows us to travel amongst the stars by instantaneous travel, and basically they also find a tablet that points them back to their home of Higara. And this is where you hear Rachel say at the end, we are all united, we are all Kushan. And in Homeworld 1, it was the Kushan on Kharak are fighting against the Taidan. The Taidan come by and they're like, hey, the Taidan satellite that you see in the game was just one of the first wave of them coming in and saying, hey, you guys can't be out in space. We conquered you millennia ago, and you were as part of the deal, your survivors were allowed to resettle here, were forced to resettle here and to give up space travel. And they find this tablet pointing back to Higara, their home, and they want to go explore it. And the Taidan basically come in and kick them to the curb even more. But a group of them manages to escape and find their homeworld, hence the name Homeworld. And it's fantastic to see this early stage of it. I really like how they tied in the story. I really like what they did here. I think the missions were appropriate. There weren't a whole lot of missions, but they were appropriate for those of us who like the lore. Probably not so appropriate if you really were looking for a challenge and those kinds of things. But beyond that, I enjoyed my time in it. It came and it went. It didn't stick around for too long, and it's again, the story was what I wanted out of it, and the story is what I got out of it. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will see you in the next series.